Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So welcome to this gathering of civil society mobilization in Asia. This is a thematic forum on human rights and democracy towards an Asia-Pacific social forum uh, uh, hosted by the Asia Pacific, by the Democracy and Human Rights thematic pillar of the Asia Pacific Forum. So we are gathered here today as we discuss as we uh, mobilize towards the discussion of appreciation of democracy in Asia. We understand democracy stands as a cornerstone of modern governance, providing framework for political participation, protection of human rights, and the rule of law. In the diverse tapestry of Asian nation, the journey towards democracy has been marked by both progress and challenges. So this year, 2024 has been eventful for democracy and human rights advocates around the region. We saw relentless co-optation of democratic processes and institutions, which has significantly contributed to the advancement of autocracy and degradation of human rights. Significant elections have taken place in 22 countries across Asia, with numerous pro-democracy advocates expressing concerns on the outcomes, implications on human rights and democracy, with elected leaders representing the status quo or even retrogressive values. So political shifts have been happening in Thailand and Bangladesh, and they remind us of the ever-evolving democratic landscape in the region. Complicating these shifts is the emergence of challenges such as mis and disinformation, increased polarization, the weakening of democratic institutions, securitization, climate change, and illiberal influencing, among others. Meanwhile, the conflict in Myanmar and the situation of under-democratized states such as Cambodia, Afghanistan, and among others will continue to be negatively impacted by these challenges. Making the situation worse is uh, that our political environment endangers the human rights of many. The spread of autocratic values also meant that the spread of transnational repression, victimizing members of the pro-democracy diaspora. Furthermore, human rights violations such as the repression of the rights to assemble, associate, and express freely continue to afflict citizens in closed spaces such as Cambodia, Vietnam, and China. The struggle for freedoms have costed the lives of many human rights defenders who continuously experience enforced disappearances, harassment, and pernicious lawsuits and torture. So reflecting on this situation, there is an essential and urgent need to continue the process of the WSF and consider future steps in Asia's pro-democracy and human rights solidarity. So now we are here gathered to hear from various speakers from various states experiencing various challenges to democracy and human rights. And they will be presenting their situation in their respective spaces. So to start our discussion, I would like to call on uh, uh, P. Buntan to deliver an opening remarks and a bit of original situationer on human rights and democracy. Uh, P. Buntan, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Khalil, for uh, keep the ball rolling. So my name is Buntan Tansitewidawong from the Asian Cultural Forum on Development, or ACT4, also working with several human rights organizations here in Thailand and the region. So I think one of the most important thing that we met today is just only to following the process. When we came from the World Social Forum 2024 in Kathmandu, Nepal, and after some time, we really felt that the civil society and NGO and social movement need to put our head together, especially on the key area, on the peace and security, democracy and human rights and climate change. So we are part of the process that try to bring forward and to try to gain momentum. In the meantime, also to consolidate among ourselves who are involving in the democracy and human rights movement throughout the region. As Khaled had mentioned earlier, of course, I think most of us here are quite aware that this year, 2024, there's more than a dozen of Asian countries stand at the crucial juncture as they navigate the democratic process through various elections And these electoral exercise in these countries are about reaffirming the fundamental principle of democracy, ensuring the and accountabilities and fostering inclusive government. So democracy stand. I think that is also something that is also related to the crucial issue at the moment. And one of the very interesting thing is that the result of the general election this year and the formation of the new government in several countries in the region are not fully expected and certified. What happened in the Philippines, Indonesia, Cambodia, Thailand reflects some kind of cronyism, nepotism, or political dynasty at some extent. I think that is also one of the very most challenging, and it's also the time for us to share experience, not just only the democratic space, but also the human right, justice, involvement of all of us. Um, in order to supplement to what Khalil have mentioned earlier, despite all this challenge, the CSO, civil society organization in the region continue to play a critical role in upholding democratic values. Of course, the shrinking democratic space in Asia presents a significant challenge for the civil society organization and the movement. The future is really uncertain. However, the social movement here remain essential actor in promoting the social changes and holding government accountable. And by fostering collaboration, innovation, and the spirit of resilience, the social movement can continue to play a vital role in promoting democracy, social justice, and a more vibrant future for the regions. Human rights situation in Asia is decline, as many of you are aware of. And when many countries became more authoritarian, even though general elections have been conducted, somehow the trend of political dynasty nepotism also reflected, as I mentioned earlier. Such democratic right, freedom of expression, association, and assembly are some basic components of such open society. Freedom from hunger, torture, and inhuman degradation, including the enforced disappearance, arbitrary detention, and execution, indicate the civilization or equal access to justice. These all issues are the state application to human right, international human right application, and therefore a common platform on democracy and human right like this quite useful and meaningful in order to benefiting the common struggle of the social movement in the region. And it is expected that this process will contribute to developing our international solidarity at some extent. Of course, we are also moving forward to the thematic workshop of the Asia Pacific Social Forum that we supposed to hold here in March 2025, maybe within the next 4 or 5 months from now. So this is a starting process for our journey, and we wish you are enjoying our collective exchange of view and information. So thank you to you all.
Thanks a lot, Buntan, for those opening remarks and setting the stage. Uh, we will now invite the speaker from Myanmar, uh, Chi Nayen, if I pronounce your name correctly, or close to the most correct pronunciation. Chi is a youth queer activist currently serving as the secretary of Queers of Burma Alternative and has been deeply involved in activism since 2018, focusing on LGBTQ plus rights, anti-militarism, youth activism, environmentalism, despite the tremendous repression that's going on in Myanmar at this point of time. We'll be very glad to hear from Chi, his hopes for a democratic and inclusive Burma. Over to you, Chi.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really glad to be here and to discuss about the current democracy and human rights situation in Myanmar. And already mentioning about my profiles, I'm also participating in our People Revolution, and I'm one of the queer activists and for defense our democracy in Myanmar. So my presentation will focus on the three key areas: current situation and stakeholder response and recommendation for moving forward. So since the military attempted coup on February 21, Myanmar has faced a relentless assault on a democracy and human rights. Millions of people continue to suffer in Leicester by examination, current state or effort. Current situation, it's our military controlling some of the areas of the Myanmar cities, and they reversed the democratic reform since 2021. So this is the country is now plagued by the systematic human rights violations. Activists and ordinary citizens face arbitrary arrests, torture, and extrajudicial killings. Over 2 million people had been displaced and forced to flee their home due to ongoing conflict. And the next one is the military group used the internet blackout and surveillance to suppress dissent and silence the voice that demand change. They never encourage and they never deal with true and honest engagement with the voice of the people. And the marginalized group, including the Rohingya communities and other ethnic minorities, continue to face systematic violence and exclusion. They also neglect that kind of topic, and they were never mentioned. They don't even use the word of the Rohingya tents on the sides of the military group. So this is the current situation. You can see the horrific human rights condition in Myanmar right now. And okay, so at the time, we are facing with the obstacles are significant. The first one is I want to point out is a weak institution. So right now in Myanmar, all the institution of governance, all the institution of for people, they are really failure, but it's on the side of military group. We don't have any legal protection for the people. People are living in their lack of independence and judiciary, lack of, they have no right to defend themselves in their Myanmar. So like a military group, like a criminal group. So another one is we already have the and addressing issue like patriarchal culture, gender inequality, and marginalized women, LGBT plus people, and also gender minority peoples. And another one is they already have a militarized economy, the under control key economic sector, and consolidating power and exploiting resources to sustain its power. They want to take over the economy to benefit for themselves, not for the people, not even for his institution. He never give the soldier of his military soldier. They never show and distribute the roles between the military group. They just only take over all the resource and all the profit for the head of the groups of military leader. So these are currently we facing the challenge. Now, what trend we observe? You can see even the attempted coup is happened. The people never give the chance to legitimate them to and never suppose it. There are any implementation in Myanmar. So what happened? What are happening right now is there youth-led inclusive movement. So we have a spring revolution. We stay ongoing and we stay defending our democracy. We are resisting to the authoritarianism, and also we advocate to the international community, amplify our voice globally. And this is also given our solidarity that grow among ethnic and social group. I already mentioned women, LGBT peoples, and also you between the generation to generation. We make the solar street and that fostering unity against military attempted coup. Okay, so what about the stakeholder in that kind of movement? Now let's look at how various stakeholders are responding to this challenge. I will see from my background, it's a civil society organization. CSO are the really mainstreams and really the water for that kind of our resistance and our movement. We are responding through the grassroots network, Act for the IDB, and we have so many initiatives in innovation, education, and health, and also the bottom at federalist scenes in some our ethnic liberated areas, and also have a gender equality and inclusive view for the integration of implementation on ground. So, for example, if the one of the conflict zone, it's also we want to supply, we want to distribute humanitarian aid for the IDB camp for the refugee people. We use that grassroots network, and we also throughout that grassroots network for more inclusive and for more networking and that kind of implementation, that kind of innovation. It's showing about our people encouragement, our people's resilience in our movement. This is provide the humanitarian aid to internally displaced persons and run secret education program to keep hope alive for the next generation, including our my organization, Queers of Burma Alternative, are integrating queers right into the broader struggle for democracy. So this is talking about pro-democracy movement. The Spring Revolution has united youth group and revolutionary organization and civil disobedient movement. So this is coalition opposing military attempted coup. So that efforts, we have communicating, we have organizing the genocide comedy. This is ethnic based, they have a CSO base, they have any other difference and groups. They also have that kind of mobilizing protest and backing with our national unity government. So that is legitimate representative of the Myanmar. Now we are back in that kind of government and we mobilizing protests and we defend our democracy movement. So what about the external community? I want to talk about its ASEAN. For the regional scope, it's ASEAN. ASEAN 5-point consensus is it's largely unaffected due to weak enforcement and international actors like EU and US have imposed targeted sanctions on the military-linked basin. These sanctions aim to financially weaken the military group and that supports the pro-democracy oppose. So first one is a regional point out, it's ASEAN. The work, it doesn't complete. We can conclude that way. That ASEAN 5-point consensus is not working anymore right now. So we need to criticize and we demand more effective and efficient ways of thinking to address to Myanmar people. So another one is a global sanction that is really supported. This is it's one of the piece to cut off the military airstrike fuels. Military group, they used a lot of air bombing onto the civilian targeted place, including the education, including the religious buildings, and also the healthcare center. They bombing on that kind of civilian places. So the people suffering because of their air strike. So that kind of air strike, because they get fuels from the international community. So we demand the international community to get off their military oil fuels, to cut off our life to more safety places. So this is really basic, and our Myanmar pro-democracy group always advocate for that kind of recommendation. Another one is we do the independent media and research and advocacy. Independent journalists and media platforms document autocracy to counter the military propaganda. Because you know, military group, they always cover the real situation of Myanmar. They want to express that they can control everything of Myanmar, but actually they not. So who are reveal that kind of current situation, that kind of real situation? It's independent media. They always express, they always show the international community to the regional community, documenting autocracy. Another one is research and advocacy group, including for the highlighting the gender impact of crew and evaluate the woman contribution and to the resistance. This is really important. We're not doing blind tactic. We are doing the systematic research and advocacy, and we always count and we always have a tactic and strategy to overcome, to have a more prosperity of people. So we not the blind group. We have a research and advocacy, more systematic contribution to their activates way. Another one is, let me conclude through the recommendation for the civil society, strengthen the alliance and international organization, and we want to speak our voice. We demand to speak out our voice more louder and louder, because you know, Myanmar conflict, Myanmar crisis are like a more silence. The international community have a low attention on our aspect. So we want to have a space for a strong alliance with international organization through the using of media to amplify intersectionality, whatever the race, whatever the gender, whatever the social status. For international community, we want to enforce the sanction and recognize and collaborate with the people legitimate NUG, NUCC, and Myanmar people voice. So further activities from the regionals and international activists want to use digital tools to safeguard activists and campaign for Myanmar people. We always have a campaign and also have to cut off our fuels, airstrikes from the military group. So please stand with the Myanmar and please raise the Myanmar people voice for more democracy and human rights effort in our pro-democracy group. So my final closing thought is, despite immense the challenge, Myanmar pro-democracy force show remarkable resilience. We stay and we are on the winnings because most of our territory controlled by the Myanmar Revolutionary Forces, and also we develop their innovative ways of institution in the liberated area, and we have a civil society, grounded civil society, to affect it and criticize more inclusive and equitable and equality and democracy and justice for the future. So we want to demand for your encouragement and solitary message. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Chi, and thanks very much for ending in that very optimist tone of about the resilience of and the collective actions to the military junta in Myanmar. For lack of time, we'll soon pass to Rose Trabajno from Philippines. Rose has been a very active human rights defender for a long time, and she currently leads I Defend, an organization defending the rights of human rights defenders. Uh, I would request all the speakers to restrict to 10 minutes so that we have more time for discussions from the floors. And I'm sure that there will be many questions from the audience who are keenly watching this the situation of democracy in Asia. So over to you, Rose.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, very much.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for colleagues, human rights defenders colleagues here in the Philippines, to share what's happening now in the country. And my slide is not working. I don't know why. Sorry. What shall I do? Forgive me. Okay, now we have some good news, great news actually. Senator De Lima was released finally after more than 6 years of incarceration due to trump-up charges of drugs, and this was, of course, made by Duterte. No, Duterte was so mad at her because of the investigation De Lima did when she was still with the Commission on Human Rights. But finally, she is now acquitted and released. Another great news, of course, is the former President Rodrigo Duterte is being investigated by the House of Representatives, no? For all the killings that happened, the extrajudicial killings, the war on drugs, his involvement actually in the drug cartel, and probably involvement in Pogo. And we are, of course, very excited that we know that the warrant of arrest from the ICC will be coming soon, hopefully before the year ends. No? Duterte's daughter, Sara Duterte, who is now our vice president, is also being investigated at the House of Representatives for unlawful or corrupt use of intelligence and confidential funds. No? These funds she had currently with the office of the vice president, and when she was still the secretary of the Department of Education. No? So it was actually the first time the office of the vice president and Department of Education had confidential and intelligence funds only during her term, and now she is being investigated. And we're sure that the House of Representatives is now preparing for an impeachment case. So for us, these are great news. However, there is continuing bad news. No? At least 188 government positions have dynasties, no? in these positions. And although political dynasty is banned from our constitution, the Congress, of course, would not pass any enabling bill or enabling law to remove political dynasty because they're benefiting from it. So since the late 80s, there has been continuous filing of bills against political dynasty, but still here. In the research made by the Ateneo School of Governance, you can see the comparison from 2004 and 2019. Actually, all have increased, from positions of governor, vice governor, mayor, vice mayor, and congressmen or representatives. There has been an increase of political dynasty. Currently in our Senate, which only has 24 members, 3 of them are families, mother and son, brothers, brother and sister. If you would also see the Marcoses, the relatives actually occupy major positions. At least 7 of them are there. The president, her sister, senator, 2 of his son and his cousin are district representatives. In fact, his son is a deputy speaker and his cousin is the speaker of the House. So these are really political dynasties. The Duterte family also, the father is ex-president, the daughter vice president, and the son is congressman, and another son is mayor in Davao. You would also see this in our executive branch. It is really so maddening that we have the Secretary of Justice and the Secretary of Department of Interior and Local Government, both major executive agencies, they are occupied by brothers. And of course, many of our politicians own or have investments in big corporations such as mining, real estate, construction, businesses, etc. So these are bad news, no? And continuing with the bad news, human rights violations does not end. No? The matrix on the left came from the Commission on Human Rights, but I would say that there are more violations, but many are not reported to the CHR. But at least this one are official because they are from authorized government agencies. So enforced disappearance continue with number of victims as 23. This is from July 1 to July 31, 2024. July 1 is when the new president came to power, Bongbong Marcos. So the enforced disappearance, abduction, torture, illegal and arbitrary arrest and detention continues, and even the extrajudicial killings. The CHR has 161 cases documented, but we believe with the HAS report, this is a University of the Philippines monitoring tool which they continue, so they already documented 834 killings under the war on drugs or drug-related killings since the start of Marcos until November 7. And of course, you know that the war on drugs of Duterte officially, based on government statistics, it's more than 6,000. But with the Office of the High Commissioner's Human Rights Report, it's more than 8,000. But with the ICC submissions, there are about 12 to 30,000 EJKs, no? And very unfortunate because even if we have very good laws, no? We have the Anti-Torture Act in 2009, but we only have 4 convictions. We have the Anti-Enforced Disappearance Act in 2012, we have 0 conviction. And for this war on drugs, we only have 3 cases of convictions. And these were actually cases filed under the Duterte administration. So within the Bongbong Marcos administration, no one has been convicted. In October 2021, the Department of Justice said that they have completed a review of 52 cases involving 162 police officers, but nothing has come of it at this time. The attack against civic space and human rights defenders, unfortunately, is really increasing. No? The Philippines is most dangerous country in Asia for defenders. No? From 2012 to 2023, we are always on top 3. No? And recently in 2023, we have 17 human rights defenders killed, and mostly they are from the land, environment, and IP human rights defenders. At least 112 activists are facing cases, no, or complaints against them. At least 5 NGOs have their bank accounts frozen, and there are 456 incidences of red tagging, and this is only from January 1 to June 5. No? So our documentation, our monitoring continue. And of course, we have very suppressive laws, the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. We have the Terrorism Financing Prevention and Suppression Act, which is being used against the human rights defenders and activists. And the machinery that the government is using is the National Task Force to Eliminate Local Communist Armed Conflict. We call it NTF-LCAC. And of course, the Anti-Money Laundering and Counterterrorism Coordinating Committee. In terms of economics, of course, human rights include our development goals. No? Unfortunately, this is a government assessment, but we actually do not believe in them, especially for goals 1, 2, 3, and 8, which I included question marks, no? Because we do not believe, because we have so much hunger in the Philippines, so much poverty, our health has not been protected yet, even if we have the universal health care. It is only being implemented in 5 provinces, and decent work. There are lots of unemployment and underemployment in the Philippines, and this is a major issue we have right now. Of course, major concern on food insecurity and disaster in the Philippines. All of us know that the Philippines is highest among the most vulnerable and risk country in the world, especially with regards to this climate change. So what are our lingering challenges? No? As Buntan mentioned earlier, we have a very corrupt political system. No? The government is initiating to amend our constitution to open up actually our economy for private ownership of foreign nationals. No? And this is being prevented by the CSOs. There's so many movement against this, and we hope that this will not be pushed through. Unfortunately, maybe after the election in 2025 midterm election, they will really push for it. Of course, the oligarchy and corporate capture, as mentioned earlier, many of our politicians are very into big businesses, and they are, of course, friends with billionaires in the Philippines. Actually, there are, I think, 11 billionaire Filipinos who are in the fortune list, no, of richest people in the world, and they are all here. No? So we are actually under oligarchy and corporate capture. Of course, corruption. Bongbong Marcos had been criticized because during his last birthday, he had his guests are the Duran Duran. This is a singer group, very expensive, no? And at one time, he even went to Singapore to watch the Grand Prix, no? Not really thinking about his constituents really getting hungry and impoverished. So they were also involved very early on, no? In the sugar and onion smuggling. The Aranetas, this is the wife of Bongbong Marcos, and of course Marcos for smuggling of sugar and onion. And of course, they are maintaining liberal policies, which is really not helping us out. No, this is continuing to impoverish the Filipino. The economy is not in good shape right now, especially after the impact of COVID. And now we have several storms. No, we just had 6 storms in 1 month, and this is actually will be affected, impacting again our economy and our food security. As mentioned, we have the continuing human rights violation and attacks against HRDs. I don't know if you are aware that the Human Rights Council resolution in 2020 actually resulted to a United Nations joint program. This is with the government, CHR, the United Nations, and then the CSOs. No? But really, nothing came out of this. This is supposed to address the widespread and systematic human rights violations under the Duterte regime, but nothing came out of it, especially on issues of accountability and justice. We might have the incidences of civil and political rights violations might be decreasing, but of course we are now looking into the issues of economic, social, and cultural rights or social justice issues. For our actions and responses.
Hello, Ms. Rose.
Yes.
Yes, can you wrap up in 30 seconds? Sorry.
Yes. This is our wrap up. Our campaign now focuses on social justice, exacting accountability, and rights-based governance. And of course, we are very vigilant against the change in the Constitution. We are localizing campaigns, no, to expand our movement for human rights and democracy. Our relationship or engagement with the government is calibrated and very critical because we are still building trust again after the Duterte regime. And we continue to document human rights violations. And of course, very important is an effective and secured digital advocacy. That's all. Salamat po. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Rose. And thanks a lot for linking the issues of state capture of power, corporate capture of power, with the declining situation of human rights and lack of democracy, and also its impacts on food sovereignty, environment, and other socio-economic subjects. I would be very happy to call now Qazi Maruful Islam from Bangladesh, or Tushar as he is fondly known amongst his close circles. He's a political scientist and who has been writing and speaking about the situation in Bangladesh for quite some time. And as we know that Bangladesh has been one of the hotspots, recent hotspots of democratic optimism with this very successful students movement. And so we are very happy will be very keen to hear from Tushar about the future prospects of Bangladesh and where it is leading now. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Shobhan and other colleagues. I was really listening to colleagues from Philippines and other places, and it has been wonderful to listen all of you and a particular experience of different countries. Well, I mean, for me, I will not share any PowerPoint presentation. Rather, I have a short kind of write-up, which I will read out the main points of the write-up. But let me share 2 slides of the PowerPoint presentation, which actually tells the whole story about the point what already Shushuvan mentioned, that there are certain, I'm not going back to the whole history of democratic consolidation, resurgence, revival, and backsliding, which Bangladesh has went through for the last almost 50 years since independence. Mostly, I will focus on this the very recent episode of democratic resurgence. That's how I would like to frame it, which is also known as, or popularly known as, July mass uprising. This July mass uprising has actually brought Bangladesh under a new, made it a kind of a new hotspot. So I will focus my discussion on this part, and I will try to answer particularly 3 questions. Number 1 is like, what is the specialty about this movement, or this kind of a new transition, so to say? Like, while country like we've been ruled under a political party which has a long tradition of democracy and democratic struggle for about 75 years. And when that particular political party also led a glorious independence movement, then how and why, or what condition made that particular political party leadership in a situation that basically gave a birth of a very crude version of fascism in a context like Bangladesh? So that's the first question we try to look at. And the second one is that, all right, this is not very unique in Bangladesh. We have been watching, we have been observing this sort of situation in other countries across Asia and also beyond Asia. Then the next question would be like, what is the specialty about this July movement? What are the special features of this July movement? And also in that particular regard, we also like to see whether there are other connections of other Asian experience, for example, South Korean student movement, or Thailand protest, or protest in other part of Asia. Even if we can also look at how it went in Arab Spring, very briefly, of course. And finally, I would like to highlight the very like the experience, or kind of extraction of the experience, that what we can learn from Bangladesh experience, and which could be shared among other Asian fellow citizens, those who are struggling and fighting for democracy and human rights in Asia. So that's sort of outline of my lecture, and I know that we have only 10 minutes to talk about all about it, and I'll try to maintain the time within that timeline. So let me start with this very brief oral presentation. Okay, just to share the presentation. It's not the presentation, as I said, like as you see, this is this actually shows the whole thing. I mean, this is the kind of a artwork of a young man named Abu Said. He actually sacrificed his life in this movement, which was started with a very kind of a soft sort of issue that was quota movement. Quota movement meaning like the students were demanding for elimination of quota, particularly the quota which was unduly reserved for the families of freedom fighters. I mean, the quota was almost, I mean, 30% quota in civil service. That means in all government employment, 30% quota was reserved for the family members, meaning child and grandchildren and grandchildren of freedom fighters, and that was not accepted by the young community of the country, and that was severely criticized. And there was a movement in 2018, and that movement was also brutally suppressed by the regime. However, the issue continued to grow, and finally it again erupted in July 2004. And this gentleman, this boy, like Abu Said, who was a student of Begum Rokeya University in Rangpur, in northern part of Bangladesh, and he sacrificed his life. Like he gave his life the way you see the portrait. He actually openly he faced the police like this way, and that was a kind of a turning point, and that shows two things: that the students were like the brave enough to face the brutality of the regime, and the regime was absolutely brutal, cruel to suppress this movement, and that this collision basically that created the situation in 2024 July, and finally that led to kind of a sort of a change in the regime, like the very iron, like firm control of Sheikh Hasina rule in Bangladesh, what she has been doing for last almost since 2009 actually. So 2009 to 2004, 2024, all these years she was ruling this country, and eventually grew a fascist regime, in a sense that I mean, of course, there was a sort of a mockery or kind of an election that took place in 2020 to 2014, 2018, and 2024. All those elections were actually one-party election, and there was no participation of opposition. And in fact, it was fake election, like a kind of a mock election in all kind of national and international standards. So all this situation, I mean, briefly we can say that, and this is, and you see, this is a kind of a calendar which was developed for what we see like extended July, like that started from 1st of July and all the way went up to the 4th of August, when Sheikh Hasina fled to India, and the 5th of August, and from then and onward, now we have a kind of an interim government which is now running the country. So in this context, like this is the overall situation. Now I would like to share my brief write-up on this issue. As I said, that first I would like to try to focus on the causes of this situation. I mean, you know, if you look at the democratic trajectory in Bangladesh, that after independence, it went through a parliamentary democracy under Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Then with the very first constitutional amendment, it turned to a kind of a a presidential form of government, undermining the democratic practices. Then, after the assassination of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, then there was a military election, military rule under General Jia, and which was followed by Ershad. And then in 90s, again, we had a kind of a democratic revival with the overthrow of General Ershad. And since 1991 to 2001, actually there was episodes of reasonably acceptable election. But that was again interrupted with another political unrest. And in between, there was a period of military-backed interim government from 2000, late 2006 to 2008. And then with the 2008 election, Sheikh Hasina led Bangladesh Awami League. They formed the new government, and that government continued almost like till 2024, and in between this movement happened. So this July movement, there were certain causes which we have identified. That the number one is like the growing inequality and dominance of one party. We say that widening social and economic gap, and the monopolization of the state and social institutions by a single political party, which incited public resentment and deterioration of democratic institution, manipulation of the judiciary, electoral commission, legislature, eroded trust in democratic mechanisms. So there was election, but actually there was no election. So there was kind of a election which was not participated by the people, which was not participated by the voters, but the regime, they staged the election. And then centralization of power, the concentration of authority in the executive, which marginalized legislative and local government bodies, and also other state institutions. So all power was concentrated in one particular agency, that is the Prime Minister's office. And misuse of constitutional provisions. There is a lot of legal manipulation to entrench power, fuel public outrage and perceived authoritarianism. Corruption was rampant, and the politicization of bureaucracy that also took place both in military and civil bureaucracy. That is, partisan politics infiltrated the civil service and the military, and undermining meritocracy and exacerbated repression. And of course, violation of rights, like a lot of extrajudicial killing took place during this period, and crackdowns on protest and suppression of free speech. And there was a different kind of laws, like, for example, Digital Security Act. With this act, the regime violated rights of citizens, constitutional rights, and all human rights. And also economic stretch. That stress, like rising inflation was very high, and rising living cost and limited job opportunity also intensified public frustration. So these are kind of a cause, like the causes of this July uprising. However, I mean, the key features of the July uprising, if we look at the specialty or the very features of this July uprising, that what is found, that it is student-like movement. I mean, as I said, like it was started with the quota movement, that the movement is named as anti-discrimination movement. So anti-discrimination particularly was, I mean, referring to the very situation of discriminatory quota distribution in civil services. So from there, that movement grew to a kind of a whole kind of regime change movement. So, and then, but it was led by the student. That has to be, I mean, this is one of the main point. And failure of traditional political parties. What we saw over the last 14 years, that this kind of enchantment with these major political parties that took place. I mean, the political parties like Bangladesh Nationalist Party or other political parties, they failed to create appeal to their constituencies. And one of the other special feature of this movement was like decentralized leadership. That movement, the students who led this movement, they didn't represent one single student organization. They were coming from all different organizations, and therefore the movement basically lacked central figures, made it resilient and adaptable and also like and also able to mobilize diverse group, access regions and across different universities, public, private, and high schools, and etc. And also like use of social media
Sorry.
and technology was, yes.
Sorry to disturb. We have 30 seconds left.
Okay, I'll just going very quick. Yes, social media and technology was also there, and decentralized organization. The flexible structure allowed this movement to grow quickly, and the I would say that this is another important feature is that they created new narrative and symbols. They didn't really rely on these old narratives. For example, the stories of the of independence war or the symbols of independence war. Rather, they created a new, fresh narrative, and they created a visual symbols and a new kind of language to inspire people. So this movement has sort of similarities with South Korean, Thailand, and Arab Spring in different forms. And just the lesson for Bangladesh or South Asia is that you see, like there is no kind of like you cannot really rely on the taken for granted situation, that a situation can be changed very quickly if you really do not address the constituency properly, and particularly the youth constituency. That is the most important lesson. And what we see in India and in Pakistan, also in Thailand, this is the case that if the ruling elites and the ruling the ruler or the elites, they don't really take care of the demands and the issues of the young forces, they might face challenges. And that is one of the major issues of this one. And this July uprising in Bangladesh basically serves as a profound example of how youth-driven, decentralized, and tech-enabled movements can challenge entrenched power structure and demand reform. So currently, Bangladesh is running is managed by an interim government, and they are trying to initiate a lot of reform initiatives. And it is very early to comment on their performance yet, but still things seems kind of positive in a way that people are expecting that some major change to take place that will help consolidate democracy in Bangladesh. So with that note, I would like to thank you very much once again, and I'm really honored to be invited to talk in this very esteemed session. Thank you so much. Thanks for your patience.
Thanks a lot for presenting the case of Bangladesh and also pointing out the relationship, its relationship with the larger democratic aspirations of the South Asian region. And I think it's quite valid all across Asia and across the globe. So without the next speaker is Kim Chang-ho from Korea, who's been a very senior human rights defender. He's been personally attacked. So without much ado, over to you, Kim.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is Kim Chan-ho. I'm the Global Alliance team leader of the Korea Democracy Foundation. As you know, the KDF is a public institution established in law in 2001 in Korea. I'm not representative of the KDF, but I'm just actually working at the KDF. So this is kind of the personal view, can help your knowledge about the South Korea. So thank you for inviting me today. Although I have little knowledge, I present the current status of Korean democracy from now on. I can say liberal democracy. Please next. Thank you. In 2021, Republic of Korea changed from the Moon Jae-in government to the Yoon Suk-yeol government. The Yoon Suk-yeol administration advocates liberal democracy and aim to promote peace on the Korean Peninsula through strong security and free market economy through the Korea-US alliance. Liberal democracy is a system in which the constitution that guarantees the individual freedom and rights is established, and the representatives elected under democratic procedure makes decisions within a framework of national sovereignty and constitutionalism. But many historians criticize that what the conservative government in Korea calls liberal democracy is a result of the anti-North Korea and Cold War perspective. And for this purpose, it can be an interrupt, the individual freedom can be restricted, and democracy can be resolved. The government which advocates liberal democracy is a sparked pro-Japanese dispute by advocating solidarity between Korea, the USA, and Japan. Many just hope that liberal democracy is not presented as an ideology that limits the democratic ways of our life. Next, social inequality. Many citizens living in democratized Korea society believe that social inequality in Korea continues to intensify. In particular, the cause of social inequality are income inequality and wealth concentration. The top 10% of income accounts for the significant portion of total income, and the bottom of 10% suffer from the hardship of living to the extent that their livelihoods are threatened. This income gap is deepening the gap between the rich and the poor, leading to the collapse of the middle class. A representative example of a social inequality is the increase in non-regular workers, threatened by the minimum collective right to secure individual rights and interests through the democratization. Companies are providing fewer jobs to citizens despite the unprecedented growth of companies. The conservative government is providing various benefits such as corporate tax reduction and exemption to such companies. As a result, many people who are difficult to find stable jobs are working as non-regular workers, and they suffer from lower wage and unstable employment conditions than regular workers. In addition, the wage gap between large companies and small and middle class is also considered the factor that intensifies the income inequality. Various attempts are being made to ensure the basic incomes of the people to strengthen the social safety net, but the scope is still limited. Next, abuse of jurisdiction and disappearance of justice. The PSPD in Korea recently published the government 2 years prosecution report 2024, comprehensively with prosecutions, investigations, and abuse of power since the launch of the conservative government, and summarize major cases that have caused various social controversies, including 2023 death of Korean Marine. The report includes 16 cases in which social attention is currently focused on, including external pressure during the investigation of a marine case, for example. In order to improve the excessive abuse of prosecution power during the last conservative government, institutional change were attempted despite many resistance, such as the establishment of the Public Office Investigation Office and the enactment of law to limit the prosecution investigation right. However, the Prosecution Office Act, which restricted the prosecution's directly investigation, tried to resume through the adjustment of the lower enforcement ordinance of the relevant laws, which was virtually neutralized. And next, medical censorship. The conservative government did not appoint only 2 members recommended by the president and appointed opposition recommendation personnel, even though Korean Broadcasting Commission, which was established to promote Korean media-related activists, was a 5-member consensus-based organization. In addition, in attempt to impose sanction on broadcasters and media, which have reported critically to the government with 2 members. However, such a sanction was suspended by court ruling the gist of the court ruling cites the logic of the broadcaster and failed to relate lawsuit, saying that the decision of a Korea Broadcasting Commission to make 2 members in the process of the selecting a new director of a broadcaster did not meet the purpose of the committee. The Korea Media Union is strongly criticizing the conservative government's attempt to control the media and dominate the broadcasting with the KCC at the forefront. Korea remembers the time in 1980 when the media was controlled by military. Many citizens expected to maintain a true free democratic society that guaranteed freedom of expression and freedom of speech and disappearance of political public spheres. The biggest problem with Korea democracy at the moment is the lack of political negotiation. The biggest reason is the attitude of the conservative government. The government does not have a special check mechanism for the failing to respond to changes in public opinion and approval ratings. Although the approval rating of President Yoon has reached 20% in recent opinion polls, the conservative government has shown negative response to anything such as medical reform, investigation of the First Lady, and special prosecutor for the death of the Marine. And for example, the president explained on this no longer convicts the public. In particular, numerous patients are suffering from the medical disputes resisting the government's medical reform, but they are dismissing all the proposals from the ruling and opposition party in this regard. After democratization in 1987, Korea is currently suffering from the several political disappearance periods. South Korea is facing new debates and phenomena of democracy that we have created ourselves. The enemy of North Korea is the realistic threat, but it is also our people who must coexist together. The democracy we are talking about is actually our neighbor and family. In their current situation, where we have different thoughts and fears and conflicting views of democracy, we have an obligation to find the common denominator and continue to maintain the democracy we have built through the coexistence. This is finished my presentation. And one thing I want to like to share, the KDF will open the National Museum of Korea Democracy Movement in next year, June. We sincerely ask for your interest and support. And thank you very much for time being to hearing my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and congratulations for that National Museum on Democracy. Indeed, it was really eye-opening for many of us who are not so familiar with the Korean situation. Thanks once again. So I would now call upon James Yuan from Taiwan to speak next. Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sharing my slide. Sorry. So can you hear? Can you see my slide?
Yes, very much.
Okay. Right. So thanks for inviting me to join Asian Democracy Network. My first time to and also my honor to join this network and then have a chance to speak very honorably for Taiwan, to share our experience, but also to point out some challenges and also rooms for improvements for Taiwan. This is the first slide shows the 2024 presidential election, in which it also plays some part in terms of Taiwan's democracy and the liberty. And so this is the second slide, the state of democracy in Taiwan. Well, in generally speaking, Taiwan's democracy and human rights are in good shape. I think I will similar to, I think it will be similar to Mr. Kim just mentioned in his presentation to share his view on Korea. Taiwan also had a little bit dark history in terms of the human rights and the democracy, especially in the first few decades when the government moved to Taiwan after 1949. So back then it was some people call white terror and people disappearing and without proper judicial procedure and then just put in jail, and that did happen. Nevertheless, the current situation, in generally speaking, Taiwan's democracy and the human rights are in good shape. Just just give you two examples. The Freedom House score in 2024 lists Taiwan 94 out of 100, which is ranked second highest in Asia, reflecting good, I think, pretty good process and civil liberty. And also the recently published Economist Intelligence Unit Democracy Index. Taiwan is categorized as a full democracy and ranks number 10 globally this year, and also the highest in Asia. So that shows some progress that Taiwan government and the people and the civil society has been doing for in the past decades. And like I said, the 2024 presidential election showed a good example of Taiwan's democracy, and Taiwan is a multi-political party system. Currently, just two major parties, DPP as the ruling party and the KMT as the opposition party. But during the election, there's a third party, which is called Taiwan's People's Party. They also being created and developed as the third biggest party in Taiwan. So it's a multi-party system and judicial system. There's a room for improvement, of course, like many countries, but at least for now, it's the fair judicial system exists in Taiwan. So this is the democracy index in 2023, and as you can see, Taiwan ranked number 10. Globally, and the score Taiwan has received is 8.92. So as a in here considered as a full democracy. And in terms of the stakeholder and movements, I will list it in majorly 5 categories. Taiwan's has civil society, international organizations, and the grassroots activism have actively responded to challenges, promoted democracy, and protected human rights in Taiwan. Their actions reflect a multifaceted approach to addressing systematic issues, fostering democracy, resilience, and advocating for marginalized communities. So government initiative, for example, a action plan called National Human Rights Action Plan was created in 2022, which continues to be implemented and revised until this year, 2024. This plan includes 154 actionable commitments focusing on labor rights, indigenous people's rights, gender equality, and protections of vulnerable populations. And second, Taiwan has the legislation on media and the disinformation, as we have been facing a lot of disinformation and fake news, that kind of gray zone tactics, mainly from mainland China. And Taiwan has also been strengthening the democracy abroad, continue to the current policy called New Southbound Policy. New Southbound Policy means Taiwan is aiming to have more cooperation, economic cooperation, and also, of course, if there's a chance, diplomatic and political cooperation with the South Asia and the Southeastern Asian countries to promote democratic values and the cooperation with Southeast Asian nations. the effort strengthens Taiwan's diplomatic positions and enhance regional democratic solidarity, and also the civil society organizations. Taiwan has a association called Taiwan Association for Human Rights, continues to advocate for comprehensive refugee legislation, labor rights for migrant workers, and also the grassroots movements such as youth activism and indigenous movements. They are sort of a grassroots movements in order to give the voices for those minority and vulnerable people, and also to work with the international stakeholders. So like Human Rights Watch, Taiwan has been engaged with Taiwan's government, urging to address migrant workers' exploitations, refugee protections, and the systematic inequalities. And also, Taiwan has the academia and the think tanks been working on, of course, democracy and the human rights issues. There are some key issues in democracy. There are Taiwan's politics is quite polarized. Still have to say. So intense partnership between the DPP and the KMT, which is ruling party and the opposition party, often leads to gridlocks and hampers the passage of necessary reforms. So and political polarization also exacerbates divisions on issues such as Taiwan's national identity and the cross-strait nations, because DPP always would like to sort of Taiwan has its identity and autonomy, while KMT always favors to have a much better and friendly relations with China. So when it comes to the cross-strait issues, both parties have never reached a consensus. And judicial reform, despite progress, the public perception of the judicial independence remains mixed or even pretty low. So which calls for more transparent and effective legal systems to ensure fairness and accountability. And geopolitical pressures, that's of course, you understand that the Taiwan Strait has been considered even by the Economist 2 years ago as the most dangerous place on Earth. So and we have seen that especially after August 2022, when the former Speaker of U.S. Congress, Nancy Pelosi, visited Taiwan. China has been launching large-scale military exercises surrounding Taiwan. So just very recently, a month ago, it has launched the second time this year to have large-scale military exercise surrounding almost in the entire Taiwan. So that's a challenge, of course. For Taiwan. And there is another issue just happened this year, the parliamentary reform interrupted by the Constitutional Court, in which the parliament has launched a reforms, the reform to have a more oversight, expand more oversight power on the towards the executive branch of the government. And of course, the executive branch of government is dominated by the ruling party. So that's the ruling party. On the other hand, using constitution or the constitutional court or the grand jury to defy or to counter this kind of the act or bills passed by the majority of the parliament. So that will become an issue in terms of whether it will be possibly weaken the legislative oversight. It will have the impact on the political polarization. It will have exacerbate the situation of the political polarization. It can potentially undermine the public trust in institutions, especially the judicial systems, and it will have the long-term risks to democratic resilience. So that's some of the key issues that we have to think of. Human rights in Taiwan. Taiwan is known for the commitment to human rights, including as the first country, I think, in Asia legalizing same-sex marriage, That's just for example. And also Taiwan has been having a freedom of speech, religion, assembly of strongly an assembly strongly upheld by the government, by the law, making Taiwan a safe haven for activists and dissidents from less free regions. So there are some issues still in terms of the indigenous rights, migrant workers, because Taiwan has 700,000 migrant workers, many from Indonesia, from Vietnam, and from many from Southeast Asian countries. While their welfares and need to be protected, but still the exploitation issues still often happen. And there are gender equality issues, and of course, as I mentioned, political polarization issues, economic inequality issues, and Taiwan has a long time has the protection of refugee issues, because Taiwan have no such proper laws for this, and also access to asylum wasn't still that in a proper place in Taiwan. Okay, rooms for improvements, judicial and legal reform, enhancing judicial transparency and align domestic laws with international human rights standards could bolster public confidence in the rule of law. That's the direction that the government has to follow. And sorry, there's typo. Inclusive policies for migrant workers. This is ensuring fair treatment and expanding rights for migrant workers would improve Taiwan's human rights record. Advocacy by NGOs and international organizations has spotlighted the plight of migrant workers, prompting incremental government actions such as proposed reforms to extend the legal protections. So that's other issues, for example, extending labor protections to include domestic caregivers, enforce stricter regulations against the exploitative brokerage fees, provide legal and language support for migrant workers. Those are the efforts that the government has been engaging, but still, I would say rooms for improvements. Youth concerns, grassroots improvement, amplifying demands for housing, affordability, better wages, climate actions, and urging policymakers to address structural inequality issues, and refugee and asylum policies. Taiwan Association on Human Rights and international organizations have called for Taiwan to establish a refugee framework aligned with global standards, and the issue gaining prominence in 2024. Such policies, for example, draft comprehensive refugee legislation aligned with international standards, and also build infrastructure to process asylum claims and provide adequate resources for integration or asylum seekers. And last will be the another one is indigenous people's rights. There's still rooms, even though Taiwan has many laws or acts protecting them, but there's still rooms for improvement. And the freedom of press, Taiwan's press has been quite free, to be honest. And nevertheless, there's still a case happening in recent years that in one of the certain media in Taiwan has been regulated by Taiwan's media regulating agency called National Communication Committee to reject its renewal of the license, claiming that it's constantly broadcasting or used by the Chinese media. So this media brought this case to the court, and they have been winning every single lawsuits against the government regulatory agency, NCC. So that has become an issue that the control or the regulation of the press. So also become one of the small issues of the freedom of press. So next 1 or 2 slides will share how Taiwan has been facing the constant military threat from China. For example, just a month ago, Taiwan launched the Joint Sword 2024B, in which a joint SOAR 2024A was held earlier this year. So so in October, that was the second time. So they named it as the 2024B. So if you can see the map here, it is almost 330 degrees, 100% surrounded by different types of the People's Liberation Armies, either Navy or Air Force surrounding forces, using the executes of military exercise to surround Taiwan. So this is one of the case that Taiwan has been in a difficult situation, and Taiwan has been working hard with the like-minded countries in the world who favor, who value the democracy and the liberty, and in terms of how to uphold Taiwan's own democracy and the liberty. So a situation that Taiwan and of course all the attendees here understand that Taiwan is not recognized by most of the countries in the world as a proper state. Rather it's an area of or a province of China. Nevertheless, even though Taiwan shares its autonomy, I will not say that Taiwan will seek independence, because we all understand that's a very dangerous move. Nevertheless, we try hard to maintain status quo, and Taiwan is loves peace, and so we want to maintain peace and democracy in the region. So I think that would be my presentation. Thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor James, for presenting us with a much clearer picture of the situation in Taiwan. Avinash, is Dr. Apurvanand with us? I don't think he's with us. We have also...
Sorry, yeah, I'll just... please go ahead. I'll just check with him 1 second. He said he's going to join shortly. Yeah.
Okay. Basal Al-Siurani, who was supposed to speak from Palestine, has also to leave for some urgent work. We understand the situation in Palestine. And thanks to all the presenters, I mean, the whole set of presentations came around with a common theme, which is a lack of democracy across the region, non-respect for human rights, apathy, a very, very strong apathy for any form of dissent or dissidence, including the media, the elite capture of power all across the region. On the other side, we have the people's aspiration for democracy, people's aspiration for rights, both human rights and socio-economic rights, and for quest and the eternal quest for a better future. So we have a little around half an hour now.
Dr. Purvanand is joined. Sorry. So Dr. Purvanand is there actually. You can just invite him now.
Oh, great. Yeah. So we are happy to have Dr. Apurvanand with us, the professor from New Delhi. He's a regular columnist in English and Hindi, and has been a fearless voice against the attacks on democracy, human rights, repression in India. So over to you, Dr. Apurvanand.
Thank you very much. It's an honor and privilege to be with you. And I'm very sorry for the background noise. I can't avoid it. So bear with me, please. We're discussing the state of democratic and human rights in India. Last 10 years have been really the worst years in the last 75 years of independent India. How do we describe the state of human rights and democracy in India? We can understand it by the stance of the present government led by Narendra Modi vis-a-vis human rights. Narendra Modi said, and Narendra Modi's party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, holds that since Indians battled for human rights for 70 years, India remained. So the reason for backwardness of India or underdevelopment of India is too much insistence on human rights. And so the idea of duties versus human rights has been propagated by the present regime, and human rights, the very concept and notion of human rights has been trashed by the present government, so much so that the apex body to look after the well-being of human rights in India, that is National Human Rights Commission, in fact held a speech contest to discuss the validity of the notion of human rights. National Human Rights Commission of India itself was trashing the idea of human rights in India. This gives you an understanding of the attitude of the present regime towards human rights. Now, if we look at India is a functioning democracy in the sense that elections are held regularly. Recently, elections were held, and it's not that ruling party, Bharatiya Janata Party, wins all elections. It loses state elections, and it has in fact lost many seats in the present elections, and it's a much weaker government after June 2024. But if we divide human rights into different segments, the first is the state of human rights of minorities, especially Muslims and Christians. And so Muslims are being treated as the other of India. And the approach is Nazi approach, that is to turn Muslims into second-class citizens of India. So various laws are being enacted, executive orders are being passed, which restrain the lives of Muslims in many ways. For example, their freedom to choose their partner from non-Muslim background, especially Hindu background. So if they do it, it's criminalized and they can be jailed. It's a punishable offense. If someone converts and becomes a Muslim or Christian, it's again a criminal activity, and Muslims should be arrested because it's said that it's forcible conversion. So a union, a voluntary union of Muslim men and Hindu women is criminalized. Secondly, if Muslim men desert their wives without a process, which is by pronouncing triple talaq, it's now a criminal act, and they can be jailed for 3 years. Whereas for the similar crime, quote unquote, no non-Muslim will face any punishment. So Muslims can be jailed for 3 years, but non-Muslims for similar crime, that is leaving your wife without any process, you won't face any prosecution from the state. And the enactment of CAA, Citizenship Amendment Act, which introduced a communal element and definition of Indian citizenship. A pathway to citizenship was created, and Muslims were barred from taking this path to attain citizenship in India. Along with that CAA, another process was initiated in Assam, and there is a threat that it would be unleashed in the whole of India, that is to create a national register of citizenship. For that, various documents are demanded, and the ruling party has been propagating for last 10 years in a very aggressive manner. And recently in the state elections, it became more virulent. The resolve of the present political dispensation or ruling dispensation to push out all infiltrators. Now, infiltrator is dog whistle, and it's code word for Muslims. All Hindu constituents understand, and if Muslims also understand that when the ruling party leaders say that they would push out infiltrators, and they would weed out infiltrated, it means that they would throw out Muslims from India. So it's an all-out attack on Muslims from all sides. So this is one, and Christians can be added to this category. So this is one part. Second part is an attack on civil society, NGOs, cancellation of FCRA, which will then make it impossible for the organization to receive foreign funds, which has in fact led to literal closure of thousands and thousands of organizations. And then enactment of laws like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act and PMLA, using which the governments can jail activists without any provision of bail. So bail is an exception in these laws, PMLA and UAPA. So we have scores of activists in jail for last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And they are very prominent civil rights and human rights activists. Add to it the attack on universities and educational institutions, where autonomy of institutions literally doesn't exist, and academic freedom also doesn't exist. So the overall scenario of India is very, very dismal. It's bleak. And if the present regime continues for next 3-4 years, I think it would be end of democracy from the government point of view. But I must say that there is a huge pushback from citizens, from other groups. For example, farmers fought a valiant battle for more than a year and forced the government to withdraw the anti-farmer bills that it had proposed. Similarly, Muslims fought against CAA and NRC, and to a certain extent they succeeded because the government then desisted from framing rules of CAA for a very, very long time. So the struggles are on, and people are paying a very, very heavy price for participating in these struggles to safeguard human rights. So it's a battle, it's an open battle. And I must also say here that the Muslims of India are, and most of them very poor, most of them very uneducated, who face violence on a daily basis in the form of mob lynching. They are killed by blaming them of smuggling beef or eating beef or doing something which is unpalatable to Hindus. But they have been fighting legal cases in courts 10 years, 15 years, but they have not given up. So the struggle goes on. And I think the Indian people have not yet given up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Apurvinan, for that presentation. Sushwan?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Professor Apurvanand, for pointing out the situation in India. And as we know that the world's largest democracy within quotes has become a model of how to trample upon democracy, how to trample upon people's right, how to create conditions, superb conditions of elite capture of power, making lives of most Indians very, very difficult. I would pass over to Karel to take us through the question and answers. We have around 20 minutes for question and answers. So over to you, Karel.
Yes, thank you, Sushavan, for the wonderful moderation and for guiding us through the discussions. Now I would like to open the floor for questions to our speakers, as well as some reactions from those countries who were not able to present. So for those who wanted to speak, I would like you to raise your hand. you may click the react button on the side and raise your hand. If not, you can also type on our chat. So I would like to offer everyone the chance to speak as well. So does anyone want to have a go at it in the questions or reactions and some reflections as well? Yes. Yes. Anyone who wants to speak?
Hi. I tried raising my hand. I don't know. Maybe it didn't work.
Oh yes, Maitri, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to everyone for the presentations. It was really interesting for me to hear. I'm Maitri. I work on human rights law. I'm from India. I particularly had a question for the Philippine speaker. So I was trying to understand. So I've been sort of reading about, what's been happening in Philippines, and I was curious to understand that there are bank accounts frozen. So, does that continue? Like, for instance, is Oxfam still red tagged? Is FERDAC still red tagged? And what is the impact of this red tagging? Like, what is the impact on their work? Does it make it harder for them to access funds? Does it make it harder for them to carry out their programs? So I just wanted to understand, like, the impact on the ground of the red tagging and the anti-monitoring law, etc. The various restrictions that are placed. Thank you.
Yeah, can I answer now? Sorry, Kal?
Go ahead, Ms. Rose.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Gupta. Many of INGOs have actually been red tagged, but nothing has happened to them, including Oxfam, Miserior, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. They're actually all red tags. But of course, I'm not very familiar with FERDAC. I've never heard of them. Rural missionaries, yes, they are the first one who had been red tagged, and not only red tagged, but their assets were frozen. And several other NGOs which I mentioned. I think the latest was CERNET. This is a network, about 21 a major organization network, and then there are several people's organizations who are dependent on CERNET, and their bank accounts have been frozen. And even those who are working with them, like a vehicle shop or car shop, where they bring their cars and vehicles for repair, even those shops have been, their accounts have been frozen. So imagine what is the impact of this. If you are a network and your people's organization are dependent on you, especially if you're a humanitarian NGO, now that we have this so many storms and disasters, they are very dependent on their mother network to actually facilitate support, from NGOs, from INGOs, from embassies, and all their operations have been stopped. Of course, this is not only in terms of their accounts, but their physical, personal security is also at risk, also in danger. Many of those who had been red tagged in the past are actually killed or abducted. But this time, the government is really intensifying attacks against NGOs, especially humanitarian NGOs, and that is very unfortunate. Maybe we can have a talk about that later on, so we can have a long conversation.
I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Mr. Hanu. Thank you. That was a very interesting answer.
Yeah, thank you, Maitri. Now we have a question from Ishal. Go ahead, Ishal.
Yeah, thank you, Carl, and thanks everyone and that providing this space. I really learned a lot presentation, mainly from the India. But my question is actually addressed to all presenters, because we today and maybe previously in different forum, we're learning a lot about what's going on, what happenings, what challenges in all aspects. It's not only about democracy and human rights, but probably in many multi-sectoral aspects. But then again, I try to mitigating and try to make my glass empty right now. Actually, in order to able to respond or to fighting back, that anybody is already identified what are actually our enemies who's the perpetrators? What are our enemies? In national and at the national levels. The first presentation, Carol mentioning about international illiberal democratic actors, and then several presenters also telling about, for example, Myanmar facing junta militaire. Presenter from India telling about the biggest non-democratic action by BJP or Ultra Hindu Act. Do we, if I can get some things, perhaps I'm not asking too much. Do we mitigating who is actually our enemy? By knowing our enemy, we can fighting them better. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean, for the question. So do our speakers want to go first in terms of answering the question? Maybe I'll ask James then, if you have a question, if you have a response. James? Hello?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, yes. Do you have a response to the previous question?
Well, I think the who is the enemy cross the range, cross the border, or internationally or domestic. I think each country's case are quite different given its history, its political background, and using Taiwan's case, if I do not call it enemy, I think I would just call it a security concern, and a very serious security concern, and that concern is currently, I think, recognized by many countries in the world. But currently, the Strait of Taiwan Strait is the major focus in which it's not sort of a corruption or democratic issue, but it's a much larger military issues. So I think that will require on more negotiation, and of course that to deal with the case that it's a much larger formal or regular we'll say military threat. It will require on how to establish a proper deterrence capability, and that will requires a cooperation with like-minded countries. So that is why Taiwan in the past, I would say 8 years, has been engaging more frequently with South Asian and the Southeast Asian countries, because we have a much larger stakeholders there, and also these countries have quite big stakeholders in Taiwan as well. Just give you an example, the chip making industry in Taiwan, that will matter to almost the entire world, and also so that means the stability of the region will also affect other places in the area. For example, Vietnam, of course, Philippines, the closest country to Taiwan, and also Thailand, and Malaysia, Indonesia, you name it. Just to give you an example, Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia, they have so many migrant workers in Taiwan. Taking Indonesia as an example, 350,000 Indonesians live in Taiwan. I have been teaching a lot of Indonesian students, outstanding students in Taiwan, and I was so impressed. Actually, I was so impressed by Indonesian migrant workers. They can vote in Taiwan earlier this year. So I took that picture. They have a voting station in downtown Taipei, and that could not happen in Taiwan's presidential election. because once you are not in the country, you cannot vote. We cannot vote, not like Indonesians. So I just said to my students, there's something that I was jealous. I envy that you can vote even you are not in Indonesia right now. So that gives an example that how we can still learn from our we call friendly countries or like-minded countries. So thank you very much. That's my response.
Thank you, James. Other of our other speakers want to respond to the question? Otherwise, we'll proceed to Pijab's question. Pijab, you can go ahead.
Yes, I just like to bring up my concern on the presentation of our plane from Philippines, because in Thailand we also have before the problem of torturing, disappearance, but we are looking at this CAT, the Convention against torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment of or punishment. CAT is international law. So when Thailand, what you say, recognize this CAT, I mean signing in the treaty. So after that, Thailand, we try to mobilize, the civil society try to mobilize, and we, for 2 years ago, we can come up with the promulgation of the law on the prevention and suppression of torture and enforce disappearance act, which I think it help. It a lot of help because it provide provision that to enforce the police, that they cannot just go to the house and arrest the people, and they have to go through the process. So it includes provision that will hold perpetrator to account under criminal law and incorporate key principle of non-delegation and non-reformment, prohibiting officials from expelling, deporting, and extraditing a person to another country, things like that. So I think this can be the tool. It's just my challenge that we Thailand experience this, and we try to come up with this tool, and it more or less helps the situation because it enforces the police, and we are watching this law to be enforced properly. Thank you.
Just a quick reaction. Thank you very much for that comment, and I'm very happy for Thailand that the Anti-Torture Act is doing good, no, in your country. Unfortunately, not in the Philippines, especially during the Duterte administration. We cannot monitor anything. We cannot complain on anything. And of course, most of the perpetrators are police, so and they are the investigators. So it's always a problem. No? There are several cases filed, but most of the time, the police won't really act on it because it will be their personnel who are considered as perpetrators. So at this time, since 2009, more than 14 years, we only have 4 convictions of torture. We want our Congress to do an oversight of the law, and we will be pushing for it hopefully by the next, after 2025 midterm election. But thank you for your comment.
Thank you also.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Pijab. Thank you, Ms. Rose. So we have another question from Anushaya, an important question for our speakers. Anushaya would like to read or raise your questions to the floor so everyone could hear it. Or perhaps I can read it on behalf of Anushaya.
Yes, please. You read it. Thank you.
Yes. So Anushaya raised in the post 1 year of the latest conflict between Palestine and Israel, do you think that the human rights activists should reconceptualize the human rights agenda at the global level? So the question is presented to all our speakers, and it's an important point of discussion for everyone present here as well. So any one of our speakers who would like to go at it, or any one of the participants as well who would like to propose a response to this question, well, we'd be happy to hear from you all. Anyone? Otherwise, maybe I'll call one of our speakers to speak. Maybe Chinye would like to give it a go regarding the question.
Thank you. I will quick respond for this question. This is really thought-provoking questions, and the ongoing conflicts between Palestine and Israel, as well as other ongoing global crises, indeed raise critical question, talk about the effectiveness of current human rights frame. So my opinions for that question, it's we need to emerge from a universalistic perspective, but conflict like this highlight the need for greater sensitivity to local context. So we have to approach for intersectional approach, and another one is a cultural specificity. So for the intersectional approach, addressing how issues like colonialism, nationalism, and economic inequality shape human rights abuse. So this kind of framework need to be contextualization of human rights, and also think about of ensuring human rights mechanism resonate with respect the culture and historical reality of affected communities. And another one is our human rights advocacy. So that kind of human rights advocacy, I want to recommend it's decolonizing. A critic argue its global human rights agenda often reflects like a more private rights on the fights for so we need to promote the global south fights in that kind of inequality war. Imbalance can lead to perceptional bias. So that kind of wave, it's amplifying the marginalized voice and equitable representation we needed in our agenda of human rights. So that kind of prolonged conflict, it's like a Palestine, Israel, and human rights advocacy sometimes struggle to address the structural injustice and also with institution in that kind of nation. It's some other specific cultures and communities, local knowledge. We need to integrate that kind of things to the human rights agendas. And so activists could focus on a preventive approach and accountability mechanisms, strengthening international legal framework to hold all parties accountable. So this is right now we need to do it, and to bridge human rights and political reality. We talk about the human, we talk about the democracy, but we lack of a political reality. So we need to leverage multilateral institution and engage in the grounded civil society. So that's my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Chinyen. Perhaps Chan Ho would like to give the go as well, as someone who represents from the KEF perspective. Chan Ho, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't have my response is I didn't really thinking about that, but yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that question actually. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, would you like me to repeat the question then? The question is about post 1 year of the latest conflict between Palestine and Israel. Do you think that human rights activists should reconceptualize the human rights agenda at the global level? Or perhaps other speakers would like to give it a go as well?
I don't have any opinion for that question, but I'd like to ask some the speaker from Bangladesh. Actually, last 2 weeks ago, we organized the global forum and we invited someone from the Bangladesh. The situation was really harsh, and something they also asked us to make a solidarity. Then we also start to how we can deal with that request to us. Then actually, I'm really thinking about how is the condition for the people who got injured. How was the treatment, medical treatment for them? How we can try to send some equipment or anything you want it. We would like to know if it is anything we can help. I would like to ask to the speaker from Bangladesh.
Dr. Maruf, is he still here? I think he's trying to reconnect. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry about the question.
Yes. Dr. Maruf, did you hear the question? Sorry. Hello? I think Dr. Maruf.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Maruf.
Okay, thank you so much. I just missed the very last part of the question. What the gentleman said that, I mean, if I don't get it wrong, then is it the question is about like what is the condition of the people who suffered in the movement, or what exactly? Would you please repeat the question? Hello.
Yeah, my question was I just thank you for your presentation, and then we are wondering how we can help you or how we can assist you to support your the movement. But is the people still got a medical treatment in a hospital, or what kind of things we can support you? And that was my question. Thank you.
I think actually he got disconnected again.
Okay.
But he's now connected again.
No.
Yes. So perhaps you can type the question on the chat, Mr. Channel, and then we'll send it to Mr. Perhaps when Mr. Maru reads it, he can respond to the question. Other questions from the group or other responses to the previous questions that were raised in the question and answer portion? If other speakers would like to respond as well, or our participants would like to react to some of the points raised during our presentation, please go ahead. Anyone who would like to give it a go? Yes. Okay. Mr. Maruf, I think Mr. Chanho earlier was asking about what sort of support can be provided to our activists who were injured in the recent protests. If there are other support post the protest support can be provided, are there specific items that you would like to raise?
Thank you very much, and my sincere apology for being interrupted several times for my very poor internet connection. There, I mean, two sets of activists who are being suffered during this movement. Number one is like there are human rights activists, journalists who have been trying to dissent their voice against the regime for the last almost 10 years. They suffered quite a lot. And there are another group of people who suffered in the very recent, during this July, August time. So for both of the groups, kind of support at this stage is required. That like a large number of protesters, they went through severe physical injuries, and a large number of them, they lost their eyesight, and many of them, like hundreds of them, are carrying bullet pipettes in their bodies, which require long-term treatment, categorically specialized medical treatment by specialized physicians in facilities. So medical support is one of the areas they need, but I think at the same time they also do need a larger solidarity with the activists across the globe, I mean, for in terms of their organizational capacity, their legal support, and their moral support. At this stage, the current interim government has undertaken several steps and steps to provide support, particularly medical support to the people who are injured. And also, they are taking care of legal issues for the people who have been suffering and who are suffering for different kind of repressive laws under the previous regime. For example, Digital Security Act and so on. They are gradually releasing them, and through like kind of a legal scrutiny process. But at this stage, what I think for the global civil society and development and democracy and human rights activists is required that we need to watch it very carefully and closely, because like the state is state, like a state in most of the cases, if not always, they're repressive. So no matter what kind of a state you have, human rights activists and democracy or rights activists, they may have to face kind of a tougher situation, even during this regime. So we need to carefully watch the situation on ground and what is going on, and if there are issues, if this interim government is takes some of the measures against any of the groups, no matter what, religious minority groups or any political other groups, we need to be very careful to watch and keep them under continuous scrutiny. That is one of the major biggest support I think we should provide to them, in addition to all those medical and physical supports for the people who suffered during this movement. Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. I really appreciate it. And I'm again sorry for the interruption. Please, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Maruf. Thank you, Dr. Maruf. Sorry, I was muted. So if there are no more questions, or if the speakers would no longer, if the speakers would want, I would like to ask the speakers to respond. Yeah, okay. Mr. Yaneng, please. Yes.
Yes,
Over to
yes.
you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you all the speaker and panelists for this event, and really all the presentations and discussions are really eyes opening for me. And I just would like to share some of the the firsthand experience and the situation of our country, and share about my thoughts on the democracy and human rights a little bit. To what I learned from our firsthand experience of the in our country. In the case of Myanmar, you cannot you cannot gain democracy, genuine democracy or human rights without the just it, during the so-called transition into democracy period over the last 10 years, NLD government approach was, more of compromising with the criminal, the military junta. They intended to build the democracy, under the 2008 constitutions, which is not even the democratically drafted, it's by the military. And Aung San Suu Kyi even said that we do not become a prisoner of the past. She was literally, telling the people, to forgive and to forget the crimes that military has been committed, So what you see now, you can see what's happening what's the current situations of the country now. It's turning back to the cycle of violence, human rights violations, and oppressions again. We are facing, because that's and also like ASEAN and the rest of the world, international community, they are pushing us now to have a peaceful dialogue, or whatever they call, like with the military, to sit on the same table with the the killer who committed international crimes. And our people, the Myanmar people, already learned over the last 10 years, and we follow the leadership of NLD government. And although we want justice, we try to forgive them over the last 10 years, and they do not have a genuine will to change their, to reform the country, to really go to the democratic path, right? So yeah, I just would like to use this platform as also like to voice out our Myanmar situation here. So without accountability and justice, you cannot help solve. Please don't look for quick fix solutions. Please don't just ask us to talk with the military. Okay, that's what I would like to tell to ASEAN and international community and our friends and colleagues. Please help spread this word, because without just an accountability, we will go back to the there's no way we can go get the democracy and genuine peace or justice without justice. So yeah, I just would like to use this platform to advocate about our country as well. So rather, you should support our people movement, defending their democracy and human rights. I would like to, my only hope is that people to people solidarity only. We cannot rely on any elite leader, political leaders who only play or who only do with their own interests only. They don't look for the humanity. They don't have it, they just have their interests without looking at the human right, So that's my point. My last point is that democracy and human right cannot be prosper in our country without just an accountability. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking a little bit of time.
Thank you very much, Shannon, for raising your points. Not to support the junta and be in solidarity with our Burmese colleagues who are still fighting for their democratic space. So now I think no more questions were raised. And I would like to thank our speakers for joining us in this wonderful discussion and enlightening us on the very important issues that each country have been facing with regard to their situation of democracy and human rights. So it's our pleasure to hear from you all, and we hope that this discussion will inspire further solidarity and unity among our pro-democracy stakeholders all over the region. Our solidarity with our friends in Myanmar and in Palestine who are fighting for their rights and democracy. And we hope that the sharing will continue. So we appreciate the candor and the wonderful interactions that happened today. So with that, I would like to say thank you to everyone, and we hope to meet you all in further discussions. And maraming salamat po from Manila.
Thanks a lot, Karel. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thanks. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.